How are we doing, diggers? Hope you're well. Welcome to not the shop, not the van, but my own house. We are at in my listening room. The way we're going to do it today, we're going to have a little look at how it's laid out, have a little look at what I play my records through, and then we are going to have a deep dive into one of my favourite artists, and I'll show you some of my most prized records by him. So without further ado, let's not mess around. Let's get straight in and have a little bit of a dive into my collection, shall we? Let's go. So I'll give you a little tour of the room. Now, it's still in work in progress at the moment. This used to be our dining room, and it frequently becomes the dumping ground for everything in the house. And there is always a corner full of absolute rubbish. So I'll be careful not to film the rubbish. There's a clue down on the floor as the main thing we're going to be talking about today. So here's my listening setup. So the turntable itself, I've only had for a week. Previous to this, I've had a very dependable, trusty, relatively cheap vintage dual 503 turntable, which I absolutely adored and didn't see a need to upgrade. But this popped up on Facebook Marketplace, and it's a dream turntable for me. I love Technics. I love 1210s. As a DJ, they've always been dependable. I've always had pairs of those. But this is harking back. This is like the granddaddy of 1210s. It's direct drive. Doesn't have pitch shift on it, obviously, and you can't really do much scratching on it, but it is direct drive, so you could if you wanted, but it's got a very nice cartridge on, so you wouldn't want to with an SME arm. And I just love the look of it. Classic Japanese engineering. Let's have a little go, shall we? Obviously, you won't get the sonic beauty of it listening through YouTube, but it all pairs up really nicely as a really great listen. And I'm really enjoying my jazz, as you'll see as we look through a bit of the collection in a bit. This one, classic Blue Note rhythms, but with some, as it says, abandoned voices, with some lovely vocalisations over the top. A bit of gospel vibe to it. Anyway, let's move on. Sorry, everybody. Let's move on to see some actual records in action. So, my collection is housed across 2 units at the moment. I've got this big old Kallax down here, and then I'll spin you around this way because you don't see dumping corner then, where all loads of stuff is dumped. And then recently I bought this one back from the shop because all of these were just in boxes on the floor, and it's become a bit tricky to sort of see them or flip through them or enjoy them. This at the moment is in absolutely no order whatsoever. It's just in the order that I've acquired it from shops or bring homes from the shop itself. Over there, you do get some alphabeticalization, but that top row as well is the same. It's just stuff that needs to go back into alphabetical at some point. So yeah, like I say, this is the new in stuff. What have we had recently going into here? So stuff I've really been enjoying recently is jazz. I've really been digging jazz. Bill Evans, it's been a real way to unwind after a tricky day. Love it. Oh, that's a special album. And like I say, this is new to me. Jazz is, I've known about the classics. And I mean, some might say that I've not even scratched the surface with these because they are still the classics. But I'm just enjoying getting to know. So yeah, what I was going to make out was when you see these names and the Blue Note artists, and you suddenly sort of getting to know that, okay, Freddie Hubbard and Dexter Gordon has done Go, and you know, you tie up those names with the albums that they featured on or recorded themselves, and it is another dimension of music. And someone said, like, recently in the shop, jazz isn't another genre. It is genuinely a whole new dimension, a whole new galaxy, a whole new world, a whole new universe. There is so much to delve into. And I think that's why I'm enjoying it, because it is like unlocking a whole other world. Oh, there we go. Dexter Gordon, go, as we just said. So some of these, like I say, in no particular order. Oh, that's a naughty one. Rescued this from the loft recently. I only kept 2 records from that loft so far, because I'm not a massive soundtrack collector. If you saw recently, we had a video where I bought 3,000 records, 1,000 are soundtracks. So I kept 2 absolute belters here. This record I've been after for absolutely ages, and this record here, Bob James 1, which I'd heard about 30 seconds of a track and thought, well, that's utterly bonkers. I need more. This is like a hip hop digger's dream. So many samples in there that you listen to and you go, wait a minute, that's been used there, that's been used there. And it is absolutely bonkers, cinematic. It's not purposefully funk or soul or anything like that, but it hits a lot of mad spaces. Well worth a check out. And then, yeah, I have definitely, like I say, definitely felt my music taste change of recent. I've always been into funk and soul. That's what I used to DJ out and about. But jazz was always a step too far for me. But now, as my ears have matured, I am definitely enjoying jazz a hell of a lot more. So yeah, not for everyone, I get it. And there's still plenty of stuff that is not very jazzy whatsoever in here, that is in the new in or not sorted yet. But we'll talk about more later. Let's just do a completely random pull and see what else is in here. Laura Marling. We do like Laura Marling. Me and Laura listen to Laura Marling. We've been to see her a few times. I'm not going to pull obvious stuff. I want to pull something complete random, because it's more fun that way, isn't it? Record Store Day, Primal Scream, Echo Deck. What else have we got? Oh, Mezzanine, Repress of Mezzanine to listen to. What's this? Dr. John. You can't go wrong with a bit of Dr. John. I love Dr. John. Massive inspiration for me as a musician. I've got all my moods from Dr. John. Okay, what else have we got? Richie Havens mixed bag. Picked that up from an antique shop relatively recently for cheap. What else? Let's just do another random puller. White Denim. Been to see them a few times. Love White Denim. Garagey. Psychedelic-y rock, and right next to it, Pork Chop, Mark Holder, a guy that came over from the States 20 odd years ago, and we supported him with our good friends the Black Diamond Heavies, and he was a force to be reckoned with. What an incredible blues guitarist. And at the end of his set, he used to just rip every single one of his strings off with his bare hands. And it was phenomenal. And he was such a lovely bloke. Sadly passed away, I think, last year. That's one of my favourites at the moment. Again, just a reissue. I'm not massively bothered about reissues or originals, especially when you've got really expensive records. Al Green. Because otherwise you're just pricing yourself out of the market. I think I've been listening to that recently, so that's what's in this lot. It just needs to be re-alphabeticalised. Okay. So as you get an idea. Oh, wait a minute, what's that? Late Night Tales and Back to Mine. Nightmares on Wax, Nightmares on Wax, Nightmares on Wax. Yes, little obsession. Oh, and this, I can't stop, can I? It's too much fun. And this is an absolute great fun record. And then over to the main Kallax, like I say, most of this is alphabeticalised. So it's luckily all in pretty much order, A through to B, and it all works quite well because it's all in order. But this stuff here is also new in that hasn't got into here yet. So it's one of those things. This at some point, this A to Z does need a big switch up, because there's stuff in here. Let's do like a random pull and see if something comes out that I don't really. Well, I do like that album. That's nice. It's probably Laura's dad's, because he gave me about 50 of his albums. Oh, BDOS Band. No, that's staying. This is the thing. Doing a cull is almost impossible. But there is stuff that I've had for a very, very long time in here. Let's do a random one. Oh, Fiery Furnaces. No, I need to keep that, because I remember that gig and I bought that and it made it home in one piece from the gig. No, can't do that. So yeah, it's impossible. But yeah, it does at some point need a bit of a cull. Oh, Hawkwind. That's a win, isn't it? I love that album. Crazy, crazy times. So no, anyway, that's a cull is for a different day. But then these would fit in if I culled that stuff. What sort of stuff have we got in here? Recent stuff that we've pulled. So a bit of garagey rock kind of stuff. What's that? Oh, Michael Head and the Strands, which is associated with Shack, which I love. Mark Lanigan, Buddy Miles. So yeah, it is random in here. I can't say I'm liking. Well, no, there are definitely great things about having it random, because you pull random stuff, and that's what's quite fun. Philip Upchurch, that's cool. That's a funky old jazzy number, I tell you. Yeah, you just end up pulling random stuff, and you listen to things a bit more randomly. That is a repress, sadly. I wish it was a real one. That's great fun though. Bit of proggy, hard psych rock, Andromeda, next to Madlib, Shades of Blue. So yeah, I do like the random stillness of it. Oh, hello. Here's an album I absolutely adore. So this came into my life, this album, about a year and a half ago, when a good friend of the shop, good friend of mine, Dave, came in with this album while we had a Japanese bar in the shop and said, I picked this up, listen to this. First of all, you look at the cover and you're like, you're buying that for the cover alone, aren't you? There's no way you're not buying that buy that for the cover alone. The text is lovely as well. It all comes together, doesn't it? Oh. Anyway, yeah, stuck it on, and it is a phenomenal, orchestral, wild, mad, bit David Axelrod-y kind of soundscape. Anyway, enough waffling as usual. We get carried away and go on many tangents. Let's stop there and let's sit down and have a deep dive into one of my favourite artists. Now, the other thing that I love about collecting is those records that you would love to have in your collection, or you dream about having, or you would love to even see in real life, let alone own them. Talking about like holy grails, rare records, or records that mean a lot to you that you would love to have in. Sometimes those grails might be quite simple pickups that are quite easy to get, and that's great. That's lovely when that happens. Or it could be that it is quite an easy, cheap record, but you just never come across it, and it's just eluded you forever. And sometimes it is just good enough to see that record in the flesh and enjoy it. I remember recently we had a Deruti column sandpaper sleeve, and a guy had always dreamed of owning one, but didn't want to spend the 350 quid that it was up for. Obviously, that's fine, but just wanted to hold it and just wanted to be with it. So he had like 30 seconds in the shop where he just stared at it and just loved being within that history of that record. So yeah, my top 3 grails come from one artist, and I've always dreamed of owning them and thought it would never happen. Very rare, very hard to come by. Up to the point of owning the shop, I'd never actually seen one, and I'd spent a lot of time in record shops and I'd never even seen one. So I never thought it would come true, and it has, and I'll talk about those in a minute. But I've never been one massively for first presses, or, you know, the battle between represses and first presses and all that. It doesn't matter. As long as you've got it and it sounds good, that's fine. I do say to people though, it is nice if you have your top artists, if you own those as a first press, you've got that connection to the history of their music, and it came out at the time that they recorded it, and I do think that, you know, that's how they intended it to sound. So you've got that history part, you've got that initial early sound that they wanted to create and did create, and it was mastered for that reason. And it's all part of the collecting, isn't it? Having that, trying to track that down and finding something and making collecting exciting. So I've always tried to do that. Hasn't happened yet. There's plenty of records that are in my top 20, 30, 40, even 50 that I haven't tracked down as first presses yet. One of them here, he's always luckily he's right here. The Doors debut album is right up there for me. I mean, it was a game changer when I first heard this. Absolutely blew my mind, opened the doors of perception. And this is my original copy, and it's actually the first record I ever bought, funnily enough. And so I've kept this copy. It's an 80s copy, it's a bit battered, it plays fine, but it's got historical meaning to me, so therefore I've kept this. At some point, if I ever come across one, and I haven't yet, a first press of this would be lovely to sit alongside this. I will never get rid of this copy, obviously. It's my first record. It's great. Anyway, I will show you who I am alluding to, if you didn't already know. Nick Drake. And I'll go through these albums in a minute. And we've got 5 Leaves Left. We've got Brighter Later. And we've got Pink Moon. The ultimate trilogy of records for me. And I always remember the first time I heard Nick Drake. I'd just moved to Leicester, I was in a band, and I loved it. It was great. Just finished university, and we moved straight to Leicester as a band, basically picking somewhere on a map to move to in order to be central for touring, and things were going great. We'd recorded our first single, people were loving it. All the shows we were doing were great. We were constantly coming up with new inventive material, and it felt great. However, personally inside, I was having a bit of a battle with probably depression, to be honest. I wasn't feeling great at all. The black dog was sitting pretty heavy, which is a weird thing to happen at a time when everything was good. And it's probably down to a lot of other factors, because when you're in a band, it's absolutely brilliant. The times that you're in the band, like when you're out gigging, recording, doing all those bits. But in between, you're skint, you're poor, you don't have any money because you don't get paid by the band. So you've got to find dead-end jobs, and you just want to do that bit all the time. You don't want to do the real life, but you just want to do that bit and concentrate on it. Anyway, working a dead-end job, I had to walk 45 minutes through the ghetto slums of Leicester. Well, not quite, but rough parts of Leicester to get to my job. Do this job, which I absolutely hated. It was so far removed from what I wanted to be doing as a musician and into music. And I'm not sure, I can't remember who gave it to me. It might have been our drummer, Jess. Gave me a tape with this on it. And initially, at that time, I was exclusively listening to psychedelic garage rock. And the first few bars of this came on, I was like, oh mate, nah, I can't be listening to this, too depressing. And within about 30 seconds, I was crying. And I was walking along, and I slowed my pace right down and to a stop, and just stood there. And this music just enveloped me. And I just remember, it was like an epiphany. It was absolutely sensational feeling of this music washing over you and just changing you and just going, wow, what the hell is this? And I listened to that tape for 6 months, nothing else on that journey. That's all I listened to. And obviously the band were playing heavier and harder stuff, and I was obsessed with this record. But as we all know, you can listen to absolutely anything at any time. And I was just immersed in this record for so long. So special to me, so special to me. And I credit that album for getting me out of that pretty dark space that I was in at the time. So although you might listen to that, and especially with Nick Drake's backstory, you know, it's even more depressing. And you could wallow in that, but actually it helped me out. So here we are now with my 3 most favourite albums. Like I say, 1,500 albums, and they looked like this. This is my beautiful first pressing on the Pink Island label, and it is absolutely glorious. And that is my holiest of grails, and it gives me goosebumps to own this, because of the history and because it's released in Nick's lifetime. And there feels to me like I've got a connection, not just with Nick Drake's music, but with him, that he would have been around at the time that these were coming off the press, and he would have been thinking about this very record hitting the shelves and selling and becoming popular and making him a household name, but it didn't in his lifetime anyway. So I'm so proud to have that very first press in my collection. So sadly for Nick, this album was not received well. Not well, it just wasn't received. It sold barely any copies, received barely any music press. It just didn't go anywhere really. It was a complete hidden gem that Nick and Joe Boyd, who produced this, really saw potential in it. And it is an absolutely stunning masterpiece. But yeah, just didn't go anywhere. So in 1971, Nick Drake released this, his absolute classic, his masterpiece in some people's eyes. I love it. However, it was a very different beast to the first album. So much more orchestration, a much jazzier feel, loads more people playing on it and adding to the textures of the music. And some people thought it took away from sort of the beauty of Nick's work, but others thought the orchestration is beautiful. Personally, I love it. I think it's great. So initially, they only copied 5,000 of these records. They barely sold the 5,000 that they needed to. And this sent Nick spiralling into depression. He was absolutely gutted. But it didn't really get any traction, sadly. And then pumping all your money into this with all the orchestration and everything, and really going to town trying to make something happen, and only printing 5,000 copies and not even selling them all when it was released. You can see why he was bitterly disappointed. However, he did manage one more album. Now, I absolutely love the story of this album, of Nick going in with a carrier bag with the master tapes of the album, going into Ireland headquarters, trying to speak to somebody there, but not having the real guts, and leaving the master tapes at reception and then finding it later on in the day and taking it up and going. Nick has left these tapes just at reception, and that being the master tapes to this phenomenal album. It didn't quite work out like that. He did go there with the master tapes unannounced, but he did actually have a meeting with somebody, and they did go upstairs and they did speak for a little bit, and then he did leave them in the corner room there. So almost. Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story, I say. Now this, released in 1972, is just Nick on his own. No orchestration, no embellishments, no jazzy feel. Just Nick and his guitar recording alone. And you can feel the heartbreak, you can feel the sadness. It is a pretty tricky listen, I would say. You can feel the break in his voice and his heart as he's recording his swan song, basically. Again, sold barely any in his lifetime. And he sadly died just 2 years after that, at the age of 26 years old. So a real tragic story. And his music was then just left in the archive. There were some represses that came out. I think 1978 there was a repress, which the label looks different. And then there might have been another press in the 80s. Again, sold very few copies. It was only in the 90s. He was picked up in the US for a car advert, funnily enough, a car advert. And suddenly everyone was like, what is this music? Who is this? And he started to gain the recognition that he deserved. One of the most well-known English folk musicians of all time, with this tragic backstory. And it's such a sad shame that he didn't get that recognition in his lifetime. God knows what would have happened. We would have got a fourth album, a fifth album. Who knows? Who knows? But then that is all part of his legacy and what he's left us. And that whole story goes together to create that magical, mythical history of his music. So those are my 3 holy grails that I never thought I would own. And finally owning, because this only came into my collection 2 weeks ago, and having a first press of this is endgame stuff for me. And then there's quite a few really nice bootlegs out there that I've been hoovering up as I come across them. This one here has got a load of home recordings, original home recordings. It's got demos and outtakes. And then this was an actual official release of Nick Drake's music, semi-official I think, which has got, again, demos and sort of more polished recordings of some of the early demos and outtakes, and a couple of bedroomy stuff in there. So I love that as well. That's a really nice one. Another one here, this one's called Second Grace, which has just got some more alternate versions and unreleased versions of songs. Some of them are duplicated across them, but I love collecting them. So it's lovely when you come across. There's another one, an exploration of Nick Drake. Again, I think this one actually is literally just a compilation of the tunes on the albums. They're not even unreleased or anything like that. But again, I saw it and wanted it and had it just to add to that compilation. Another one here. These are rare recordings. And even though that they're sort of like, you know, not polished or rare recordings and stuff, sometimes they're almost unlistenable with some other artists. Not with this. You can hear Nick's beautiful voice and his guitar work. And some of the time I like listening to these even more than the studio versions. And then the last thing that I would really, really recommend, if you do want to go further than just those 3 studio albums, but you don't want to go searching around for hours for strange bootlegs like me, is this glorious box set that came out last year, The Making of 5 Leaves Left. You get the original album and it is mastered beautifully. It's really nice recording. And then you get 3 other discs which chronologically track the history of Nick recording those songs. There's a massive booklet as well. Reading this whilst listening to the albums, like I say, chronologically, as he builds this amazing album, is just stunning. And, you know, nobody really knew that all of these were just sat in an archive somewhere. I would absolutely love it if Nick's estate could bring out one of these for every album. Please, please, please. Just for me, please. So yeah, I hope, if you haven't heard of Nick Drake, this helps you to go out there and give him a listen. I hope you enjoy him. I have recommended him recently to a fair few people in the shop, and most of them have come back with the same sort of wide-eyed look of like, yeah, that's pretty special. So if you've not, I hope you do enjoy delving into his back catalogue. Like I say, I will do more videos where we'll go into other bits of my collection. I just wanted to look at that one because we have 3 of them in the shop right now for sale, which doesn't happen very often. But yeah, hope you enjoyed that small little dive into the collection, and hopefully catch you again very soon as we look at another element of the shop or my collection. But thanks guys, always appreciate you tuning in and watching these. Thank you, bye.